Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mitch Bell. They call me Taco. I am a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel from the mighty C-130 community out here, retired in Fort Worth, Texas. And tonight, of all nights, this is probably one of my most exciting interviews I'm going to have tonight. I have with me tonight Admiral Pete Viper, the real Viper, Pettigrew. The Admiral was on, well, first of all, the Admiral flew F4s and started out with F9s. We'll talk about a little bit of his flying experience. Shot down a Meg in Vietnam and also was one of the first groups of Top Gun graduates before he went to Vietnam. And then following that, F-14s, and of course, the movie that changed the world. When you think about it, kind of like 9/11 in a sense that everybody knows where they were. I remember the exact place and time I saw Top Gun in May of 1986, and that was at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. We dropped my sister off for the ring dance. My mom and I were like bored. What do we do? Hey, this new movie came out, so we went to go see it with like 200 of our newest Naval Academy midshipmen best friends, and just changed my life. And in terms of being able to have something to motivate me to keep me focused through the rest of my college days and then get me on through into flight school. Well, without further ado, I'd like to bring on Admiral Pete Pettigrew Viper. How you doing, sir?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you, Taco?
Hey, doing well. Do you mind if I call you Viper? Is that okay?
No, no, no. I'm happy to. Everybody calls me Viper.
Oh,
Well,
that is
actually, I have to say that now, you get a little older, and
right.
sometimes they change your call sign. Now they call me Diaper.
No, they do not. I know they don't. There's no way. Don Williams, who set me up with you, he doesn't call you Dipe. He calls you Admiral or he calls you Viper. That's for sure. But hey, great night, sir. And I really enjoyed shooting the bull with you earlier. And I tell you what, some of the stories we were talking about off air would be just incredible on air. I want to start back though. Go back in time. What year did you get winged?
I got my wings in June. I think it was the 6th of June, 1966. I started, well, actually, I graduated from college in 64.
From Stanford.
At Stanford, yeah. And
Right.
I was ROTC, so they bought me my education. So I figured I just needed to pay them back a few years. So
Nice.
I decided to go to flight training because I really wanted to be a fighter pilot. Don't ask me why. I didn't know what a fighter pilot did, but I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So
Well,
I
well,
was.
what sparked your interest? I mean, everybody had a spark. Like my
Oh,
uncle Bruce McCampbell, who's a Pukin dog. Big shout out to all the Pukin dogs out there. Inundated me with F-14 Navy fighter jargon, and what sparked you as a kid? Anything?
well, I built, believe it or not, I built model airplanes, and
Mm-hmm.
and I had flying model airplanes and things like that. And and then my sister dated a guy in when she was who was about a year ahead of her, who went to Villanova on a
Mm-hmm.
Navy ROTC scholarship. And I thought to myself, wow, that's, you know, I was trying to figure out how I was going to go to college, and I didn't want to have my parents pay for it.
Sure.
So my senior year in high school, I went down to the counselor and I said, "What's this about ROTC?" And he goes into his desk and pulls out a piece of paper and he says, "Fill this out and give it back to me." So I filled it out, and about a week, 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the Navy, go take this test. And then, I took the test, did the interviews, got accepted at Stanford. And I thought, what a deal. They're going to pay for me to go to college.
Sure. Sure.
But the kicker is that they pay for that, but you got to pay them back.
Right. Right.
It only
6 years
costs.
of your life, sweet pea. 6 years. A lot of things can happen in 6 years. We go to war.
Yeah, exactly right.
Officer and gentlemen.
So I decided well, you go, I did ROTC midshipman cruises, And I really liked the flying aspects and decided I want to be a fighter pilot. So I went down to flight school and I got in the last class, officers class in pre-flight. So it was like end of November 1964.
Right. And so when you got into the fleet, though, you were flying F9s to start with? Or what were you flying?
I'm not that old.
No, you're not. I'm not implying you're old, sir, but F9, that was around, let's see, in the 50s and 60s. So.
No, it was a training command airplane.
Oh, the F9s. All right, gotcha.
So I flew T-34s. Then I went to Meridian and flew T-2s. Then I went to Beeville, Texas.
Right.
And I decided to go to Beeville instead of Kingsville because Beeville had F-11s. And I wanted to fly the F-11 because it was the Blue Angels airplane.
Okay.
And turned out it was a dog.
Sure.
But I flew that and then went into the fleet and got an F-4 squadron on the West Coast. So I went to Miramar, and then the rest is, as I say, history.
So as you progressed, you went the first Top Gun class, right?
No. Oh, yeah. You made
you checked into Top Gun in 1969.
You made a little bit of an error. I never went as a student to Top Gun.
No, you were an instructor.
I started out as an instructor about the third class they had. I left from 121 and went over and taught at Top Gun. Right. And I taught air to ground, of all things. A lot of people don't know when we first started Top Gun, we had air to ground. And I was the air to ground instructor. So the first week of classes was air to ground. And so we did a week of air to ground and then 3 weeks of air to air.
So you flying the F4, were you going against the A4, like even in the movie, but you guys had A4s?
Yeah. And at that time I was flying both the A4 and the F4.
So then fast forward in 1972, Vietnam is winding down. What ship are you on? And the day that you shot down the Meg?
I did a cruise on the Coral, 2 cruises on the Coral Sea. So I got my wings in 66, finished the RAG in like January of 67, went to VF 151, the Vigilantes, which is now an F-18 squadron, in F-4Bs, and then did 2 cruises on the Coral Sea. So I immediately went into combat. So as soon as I got qualified in the F-4, I deployed. And so 67 and part of 68, I was over North Vietnam on the Coral Sea. And then I got about, in those 2 cruises, I got about 200 combat missions or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So then, and they were all up north because we were still bombing the north then. Then they stopped the bombing. And I went to VF 121. I became an LSO at the same time. So I went to VF 121 as an LSO and an instructor in 69, early 69, and then stayed through 70 and went over and taught at Top Gun till early 72, like February of 72. And they asked me if I'd be the CAG LSO on the Kitty Hawk, which was a San Diego ship. It was the best set of orders I could have ever gotten. And so I worked for a guy named Hunt Hardesty. And he's very famous. Well, he's dead now, but he ended up a 4-star. He ended up as deputy CNO. He was also Sync Pack for a while.
Oh, wow.
But his claim to fame is he holds the low altitude speed record, or he did, in the F4 of like 920 miles an hour or something like that.
Right.
No one was ever able to break it. And so and he did it when he was a lieutenant. So when I knew him, he held the low altitude speed record, and then he went on to much bigger and better things. But he's been dead for years. Great guy, one of the greatest people I ever worked for.
Right. Well, I remember the low altitude speed record deal with the F4 where it came apart, and all you saw with the J79 engines just shooting off.
Have you seen that film?
Yes, sir, I have.
Yeah, I've seen it too. That was his boss.
Oh,
that was Hunt Hardesty's boss at NWEF in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. Well, it's out of it's north of Albuquerque, I think.
Right.
And that's where they set the record, because that's the high desert. If you're
sure.
It takes a long time, but if you're going to break the low altitude speed record, it all depends on whether you got an airplane that'll go supersonic or not.
Sure.
Because the record at the time that he wanted to break the record was held by a Ford. Do you know what a Ford is?
No, sir.
3D. It was the Douglas Skyray. It was the Skyray, and the record was subsonic, because you couldn't get an airplane at low altitude to go supersonic.
Right.
So the record was, at that time, if you were going to set the record, you wanted to go in the middle of the summer at the hottest place at the lowest altitude, because because you want the greatest amount of Q without going supersonic.
Sure, that makes sense.
If you're going to break the speed sound, you want to go on the coldest day of the year at the highest altitude, which is in New Mexico, because you want to get into the less dense air.
Sure.
And that's what he did. He did it out of Albuquerque, and set the record at like 980 or something like that.
Yeah, that's fast.
You got to go two directions through timers.
Right.
And you got to, from the time you take off until you land, you can't go above 300 meters, and you can't, while you're in the traps, you can't go above 100 meters.
Wow. Yeah, that's hauling butt. That's a sensation right there.
The airplane almost came apart on him. The first one did.
Right.
That's the one the guy got killed and the J79s came out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when you were over in Vietnam flying the F4, the tactics that you learned at TopGun, those are, did it just feel like second nature for you after being an instructor, that you've got a new Rio and you just roll in on these guys and you go, hey, 4 bogeys. Oh, I got my chance.
No, it was a little more complicated than that. We were on a mission as MIGCAP, and you know what MIGCAP is. And so MIGCAP is, they give you a station, and you stay on that station and try to protect anything coming in at the strike group. But you got your own controller and your own frequencies. So it's a pretty good way of doing it, which we learned when we were teaching at TopGun. We decided that was something that we wanted to deploy, was MIGCAP. And so we were practicing it. We got a vector, and it was about a 70-mile vector over land, and it was just a perfect setup. And we had a controller. The only thing we didn't know is we thought it was 2 MiG-21s, and it turned out it was 4 MiG-21s.
So did you incorporate in the movie where the guys were, holy shit, it's not 2, it's 4 bogeys. Oh my God.
Well, that got in the movie. I don't think I put it there, but
did you talk about it with them or anything?
Oh yeah. We talked about those things a lot. But it ended up being a perfect setup. And we came in a little bit hot side, about maybe 50 degrees, 60 degrees angle off.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going faster than they were. And they saw us about the same time we saw them. Mm-hmm. The whole engagement took about 1 minute and 30 seconds. And we shot down 2. And by that time, we were 80 miles inland and getting a little low on gas. So we just disengaged from the other 2
Right.
and went back to the ship.
Where's your airplane now? Do you know?
Yeah, I know exactly where it's sitting.
Is it in Davis Monthan or is it a museum
At
somewhere?
Davis Monthan,
Ah,
in the boneyard, next to the airplane, the other airplane that shot the MiG down.
oh wow. Does it still have the star on it?
Yes,
Oh, that's so cool.
but I mean they're sitting there side by side, and yeah, I've always wanted to tell them, you got the two airplanes sitting there side by side. You should do some kind of a talk about it or something like that. Tell
Sure.
tell the people over at NWEF. Well, it's not NWEF. It's whatever the boneyard is. That you got two famous airplanes sitting side by side.
I mean, how many MiGs were shot down by the Navy and Marines in Vietnam? Do you know?
There was Marines got one. That was Bear Lassiter in Trip 333.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were on the America as a debt. And he shot one down. And then I think the Navy shot down like 48 over 72 from the time the war started again until it ended. So
Right.
that would have been like March or April of 72 until early 73. I think we shot down 48 and lost two. It came out like a 14-to-1 kill ratio. But prior to Top Gun, our kill ratio was only about 2.5-to-1 for F4s. It was pretty bad.
Why is that? I mean, just because of the way the tactics, the guys were coming in.
Yeah, I think that we weren't utilizing the airplane the way it should have been utilized.
Right.
And so Top Gun likes to say, hey, Top Gun is the difference. It is interesting. If you look at the Air Force kill ratio before they stopped bombing in 68 was 2.5-to-1, which was basically the same as the Navy's kill ratio.
Right.
They started Top Gun, and then when the war started again in March, April of 72, the Air Force's kill ratio for the rest of the war remained 2.5-to-1. The Navy's kill ratio went to 14-to-1. And of course, what the Navy will tell you is what was the difference between the Air Force and the Navy, and the difference was Top Gun.
Right.
That's what we claim.
That's funny. That's funny as all get out, because when you think about it, what year did you transition over to the Tomcat? Was that 75?
That was a little error you got in there. There were one error was the F9 was not my fleet airplane. It was train command airplane. The other was I don't have any time in the F-14.
Oh, I thought you had F-14 time. I thought you'd switched over to the F-14.
I've got some F-18 time, but I never got to fly the F-14. They asked me to be the technical advisor because I'd been an instructor at Top Gun.
Gotcha. And you were a Rear Admiral at that point?
No. I was a commander.
Commander?
Well, I may have made captain about the same time that they did the movie.
So in 86, commander, what how did they approach you about this? I mean, how does one get asked by a major Hollywood studio to come in and
you have to have a friend. You have to have a friend. The producers, Jerry Breckheimer and Don Simpson. Don Simpson had been an executive producer on Officer and a Gentleman. And he knew that the Navy, do you remember the movie Officer and Gentleman?
Oh, yes, sir. That was at the time about the only boot camp scene you could watch before you went to OCS or
the Navy refused that movie. That's why it's not done in Pensacola. It was done in Seattle, and the Navy said, no, we don't want to have anything to do with the movie. We don't like the screenplay. And so the Navy refused to participate.
Oh, so that's why they filmed up in Seattle then.
That's why they went to Seattle.
Ah.
Well, so Simpson knew the Navy, in order to do Top Gun, the Navy was going to have to participate.
Right.
So we went back to Washington to convince the senior Navy people that that they should be able to do the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lehman was Secretary of the Navy at the time. And Lehman really liked the idea because he's into marketing.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was really, really good. So, and that was just an idea in their minds. There was no screenplay or anything like that. So the producers didn't even hardly know anything about Top Gun. In fact, they thought that it was Top Guns, not Top Gun.
Well, so if they didn't even have the screenplay, Epps and those guys, when they wrote that together,
Epps and Cash hadn't been hired yet. So
they were just pitching the idea then.
Yeah, they had read a California magazine article written by an Israeli writer about two lieutenants actually trying to go through Top Gun. And they were enamored with the idea that the Navy had this program called Top Gun.
Right.
So, but the guy they talked to back in Washington was my best friend, a guy named Dave Frost. He later became a 3-star.
So he hooked you up then with, hey, I got a great gig for you.
Exactly.
You get to hang out with Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Simpson. Well, they called Frost in because Frost and I had been together as instructors at Top Gun,
mm-hmm.
and we were best friends. So they started asking questions about, gee, is there anybody you can recommend as a technical advisor for the movie?
Right.
And Dave Frost said, oh yeah, I got this guy in San Diego named Pete Pettigrew. Call him. Here's his phone number. I gave him the phone number. He said, give him a call. He'll do it for you.
That is so awesome. So
when you started, next day, I got a call from Don Simpson, and he said, would you be interested? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, come on up. We want to interview you. And I went up and interviewed with them, went out to dinner with Tom Cruise, and who was doing another movie at the time. He was doing it was a fairy tale.
Oh yeah. I know. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Early, but
yeah. And
how was he?
He was okay. He had real long hair at the time.
Uh-huh.
And he was fine, but he wasn't sure about the movie. So they flew him with the Blue Angels, and then they flew him in an F-14. And finally, he signed on to the movie because they decided they had to have him in order to make the movie successful.
I mean, I remember back when I went AI in '89, somebody was talking about Tom Cruise had gone up and it was I thought it was a T-34. That's lore, you know. They'd taken him up and done some aerobatics, and he came back, puked his brains out.
Well, that's true. When he went up to the Blue Angels.
Oh, it was okay.
Blue Angels, and he puked his guts out. He admits to it. But now, you know, he flies a lot now, you know.
Right. So they used this P-51 in the next movie.
Well, he used to fly it in. I don't know if it may be in there someplace.
Yeah.
He wanted them to qualify him in the F-18. And the Navy said, not only no, but hell no, never. And
well, I gotta admit, watching the trailers for that, I think it was the second trailer. You see, all of a sudden you see him doing something, and it breaks away, and you see the single seat F-18, and it flies off, and I'm sitting there thinking, I heard he wanted to fly, and I thought, no way. And I emailed a couple F-14, F-18 buddies of mine. I'm like, did they actually give him the keys to an F-18? No. And they're like, no, man, that's a split. It's a dual seat. they had the cameras in it, made it look like he's flying it, and then they edited it. And I'm like, gotcha. I mean, Hollywood, but it is impressive. It is impressive.
Right, it looks pretty real.
Yeah, because I mean, the back when they had that little cockpit, the F-14 cockpit in the first one, and Goose is like, "Hey, he's back behind us." You know, he's doing the Exorcist.
Yeah.
He's doing the Exorcist, turning around, looking over his shoulder.
That was all done in Burbank. That was a mock cockpit,
right?
And they had the camera, and they're just moving the camera like this.
Right. Yeah. But I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I remember just pulling some G's and T-34s going, you know, hook. No, I couldn't imagine those guys. I mean, the new movie is going to show the G's. You can't simulate that. Yeah. The G's pulling on the guy's face. That's going to be very impressive when that comes out.
Val Kilmer is the only guy that would go fly.
He would or would not?
Would not. The rest of them all flew in F-14 in the back seat of F-14s.
Right.
Not Val Kilmer. Iceman refused.
Really? I try. I've got a buddy who's friends with him, and I sent the link, and I said, "Hey, man, just put Val on for 5 minutes. Tell him 5 minutes." But, I don't think we're going to get him on tonight. I thought that'd be kind of fun. We could have harassed him about that.
Yes.
So, how much stuff like we were joking about being a C-130 guy hauling a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Tell that story about the actor that played. You know, he didn't even know what he was.
Yeah, James. Yeah. We never know. You never know in the movie. In the movie, he's just the big guy, the head honcho. He's actually a real little guy, but he is probably the CO of the squadron, and he was going to do that part about the rubber dog shit and everything, and he asked me, you know, I'd be there, and he'd say, he came up to me and said, "Tell me about this guy." And I said, "Well, we don't know who he really is. He's probably the CO, and he's a real tough guy with a heart of gold."
Yeah.
So you want to picture him as sort of gruff, and he did, and he hit the part really, really well.
Well, I loved it. The editing error, though. You know, he walks in and goes, "Who's up there? Cougar, Merlin, Maverick, and Goose." And he goes, Maverick and Goose, huh? And then like 5 minutes later, you know, bogeys or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like he spins around. He's got 6 rows of ribbons now. His wings are up here. "Hey, boys, we're going to war." "What's the Alert 5 fighter, sir? It's broken. The catapult's broken for 5 minutes. It'll be 5 minutes." "Bullshit. This will be over in 5 minutes." He did a great job.
Yeah, he did good. The other guy that really did a good job was Tom Skerritt.
Yeah.
He played the CEO of TopGun masterfully. And he asked me the same thing. He said, "Tell me about this guy." And I said, "Well, the best way to play him is he is the best pilot, and everybody knows it." And so you sort of want to underplay it.
Right.
Yeah, you should be a little softer. You're the good guy, and the XO is the bad guy.
Sure.
But you have your rules, and you're going to hold to the rules, and you can be, but you got to realize that, or you have to realize that everybody realizes you're the best.
And did they? Well, they took your call sign for Viper.
Yeah, that actually happened. They asked me, the writers. We did a day or so of sitting at a table. Just writing down call signs, all the call signs we could come up with, and
talking about you, Viper.
No, I'm trying to think of the writer, Epps, Jack Epps.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Jack Epps and me at a table, just going. I think there were some other people there. doing call signs. And Jack Epps said, well, we've already decided on Maverick. It's got to be Maverick. And I said, okay. And they said, so let's do it. So we did it. And we had a list of maybe 50 call signs. And they said, and Viper was in there. And they said, well, would you mind if we used your call sign? And I said, well, who do you want? Who do you want to be me? And they said, we want to use your call sign for the CEO of Top Gun. And I said, well, I've never been the CEO of Top Gun. I was an instructor there, and my call sign is Viper, but I was never the CEO. And they said, yeah, but we still want to use your call sign. I said, okay, go ahead.
Why not? I mean, come on, that's worth at least what, $100 a year in gratuities, or
No, I get quarterly checks.
Do you really?
Yeah, when they years and years and years ago, if you remember, the Screen Actors Guild went on strike.
Right.
And one of the issues was they wanted royalties for films that went and became TV, went on TV, because the video screen stuff was just coming, Betamax and what were the other ones that was just coming in. And so they settled the strike, and one of the answers was that you got, for when someone bought the tape and played it, that you would get a very, very small percentage. Tom Cruise would get a big chunk.
Sure.
And because of my part as Perry Seidenthal, I'm Kelly McGillis's date in the bar scene.
Yeah. So in the bar where he goes, I'm trying to save that older man.
I got paid for that as a screen actor. I think I got about $44,000 or $5,000 for that. There was another take that never made it into the movie that they had to pay me for. So 4 times a year, I get a check from the Screen Actors Guild. And for a while, it was, a couple of $100. Now it's like $30 a quarter.
Hey, that's okay, man. That's go down to the Midway and have a couple beers, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So how did you get Viper? I mean, I know how I got Taco Bell as a kid when Taco Bell came out with their commercial. But
when I first went into VF 121, I had to have a call sign, and I hadn't gotten one yet. And I knew that if you go to a squadron and you don't have a call sign, you're going to get one, and you won't like it.
Yeah. So you mess up, or a variation of your name, usually, right?
Or let's see, the most famous one was the Blue Angel. There was the Blue Angel. This was years and years ago. 60 Minutes did a deal on the Blue Angels, and this guy was trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what his real call sign was. He was his name was Lieutenant Packer.
Fudge.
Yeah. and 60 Minutes never understood it. Never understood about call signs. And at the end of the thing, they wanted to kind of pay a little homage to him, and they said,
"Yeah,
we really want to thank you for what you did, Fudge." That's probably the best I've ever heard.
I was just talking to Favor. His call sign Sex. My buddy Malcolm Andrews, he's got red head. They call him Rothladode. Red on the head like a dick on a dog. There's another guy, Muscles. He worked out all the time. There's another guy, they called him Worf because he had hair plugs and he looked like the alien from Worf. He had all these hair plugs. And I mean, yeah, the call signs are We had another guy, Larry. We called him Harry Larry because I mean that dude had been born 30 seconds later. He would have been a gorilla. Uh, yeah, call signs are unmerciful sometimes,
Yeah.
and if you don't like it and you go up and change it on the board, the FDO, somebody's going to come in there and change it back, and I mean it sticks. You're done.
Yeah. No, you're stuck with it. So anyway, I had to have one, and a guy was leaving the squadron. His call sign had been Viper, and I said, "Do you mind if he was leaving the Navy?" I said, "Do you mind if I take your call sign?" He said, "No." So I just did it.
Oh, that's funny.
And luckily it stuck.
Right. Well, how about the?
Except
how about,
that, like I said before, you get a little older. Sometimes they change your call sign. Now they call me Viper.
Yeah, well, I guess they probably start calling me Tinker. I guess I don't know, Tinkerbell or Liberty Bell or something. But
Yeah.
hey, so what's your most memorable scene that they filmed? I know the flyby the tower thing never was done in the fleet. Guys wouldn't do that, but you said, "Hey, if you do this," did you help feed that stuff into them?
Let me give you a little different one. Let me give you the things I hated most in the movie.
Okay.
That got into the movie. Number one is there's no trophy. Never
No
was
trophy.
a trophy. Never will be a trophy. Nobody wins the trophy. And I argued and argued and argued, and they were adamant about it.
Well, you have to have 2 O's in Goose.
Yeah, that's true. But they said no, we've got to have it, and somebody's got to win it. And I said, well, if in the real Top Gun, if they had a trophy, nobody'd win it because nobody would ever graduate because everybody would have mid-airs trying to win it.
Right.
I said,
bunch of alpha meat eaters out there. Sure.
Yeah, type A's. They're just and it was a horrible idea. Mm-hmm. So that number one. Number two was the inverted at the beginning.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that a 4G inverted dive. Nah,
right.
That never happened. But the writers came to me and said, we got to have some pizzazz at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And I said, well, I don't like it, but go ahead. And
right.
It worked out okay.
How about going from Top Gun to all of a sudden you leave Top Gun, grab your stuff, here's your orders, and next thing you know, you're flying in the Arabian Sea somewhere.
That didn't make a lot of difference because it didn't Hollywood. But you learn. Oh, the worst scene is the classroom scene.
Oh, the one in the hangar.
Yeah, in the hangar with the guy with the cowboy hat.
Yeah, right.
That was done. That was supposed to be done in the classroom at Top, which was a really nice room. Had a bunch of plaques and stuff on the wall, all woodworking and everything. But like a day before, I was back in Washington, D.C. with Jerry Bruckheimer trying to get cameras put on the airplanes, talking to the Navy. And we're on our way back, and on the airplane, I'm looking at what are called the one-liners. Mm-hmm. The one-liners are a day's work. It goes from the line in the screenplay, the first line they're going to shoot for the day's shoot, to the last line in the screenplay they're going to do that day. Mm-hmm. And it has everybody's job, where they have to be, when they have to be there. It's basically a day's shoot. And they're in the screen. What?
Yeah, op order.
Yeah, so, yeah. Well, it's just, they're called the one-liners. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading the one-liners, and it says classroom scene, and it says hangar deck at Top Gun, inside the hangar. And I went to Jerry, and I said, Jerry, that's not written for the hangar. It's written for the classroom.
Right.
And Jerry looks at me and he says, no, Pete, he says, you don't understand. He said, mom and pop in Oklahoma. You learn to hate mom and pop in Oklahoma because they're the generic people that are going to go see the movie. Mom and pop in Oklahoma hate classroom scenes. They're boring. So we're gonna take this scene. We're gonna put it on the hangar deck. We're gonna put A4 behind it, F-14, I think, behind it. A4's in front of it, and everyone's gonna think it's airplanes. It's not a classroom.
American flags.
Yeah,
Of course, they cancel all the flying that day because any airplane taxiing by, the instructor would have to stop instruction for 5 minutes because of the noise. Sure.
So I show up the next day at TopGun, and I'm upstairs on the side looking down over it, and there are about 3 TopGun instructors there, and I'm looking down, and there's the American flag behind. There's the A4s in front. Mm-hmm. There are the stupid little chairs, and then there's a stupid little blackboard in front. And I look at it and I go, oh God. and the instructors look at me and they go, Pettigrew, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I didn't know what to say. You know, I was really frustrated.
Right.
I looked at him and I said, you know, guys, right now, I'm just trying to keep him from turning into a musical. And I hated that scene. I hated it.
But you had to have something sexy for Charlie to walk up in her fishnet stockings.
Well, that was the other thing. Charlie walking up in fishnet stockings with seams.
Right.
I know. I went, oh no.
Well, that's the Hollywood. That's the Hollywood part of it, you know.
All that was the director, Tony Scott, who
turned
out to be a really great guy, but he had a little darkness in him.
Hey, he knows what sells, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, you think about it. Before Top Gun, I think the only movie that had great flying scenes was The Final Countdown.
Yeah.
And that was F-14s as well. I mean, you were on the West Coast when they filmed that, or?
Yeah, they filmed it on the East Coast, though.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, you know, there's a story to that. One of the reasons I got hired as a technical advisor was because of the movie Final Countdown.
Uh-huh.
The technical advisor for the movie Final Countdown was the CEO of like 41 or 84, I'm not sure, East Coast F-14 squadron.
Uh-huh.
And he was on active duty because he was the CEO, and he confiscated a bunch of paint and tables and things like that from the set. He was stealing off the set and putting everything in his garage. and the Naval Investigative NCIS
back then. Yeah.
That's probably the only one they ever won. and he got shit canned for it.
Oh.
I'm trying to remember his name, but he was a real cumshaw artist, and they got him for stealing off the set. Well, the Navy ended up looking really bad because they fired him and he retired. So
Emory.
The next movie that came out was Top Gun, and so when they went back to get a technical advisor, Frost, the guy that recommended me, knew that I wouldn't make the Navy look bad, so that's why they hired me, because they knew I wouldn't get fired.
Well, you know, I mean, that movie was actually the first, not propaganda, but the first great recruiting tool, because I remember walking out of that movie theater with my dad, and the Navy recruiters had their little fruit stand set up right there in the movie theater, and people were coming out talking to them about joining the Navy, and it was because of that movie. when you look at that, sir,
final countdown is
final,
everybody.
yeah, Final Countdown.
It ended up being a pretty interesting movie.
Yeah, it was a great sci-fi movie. And then when you think back, so in '86 when Top Gun came out, I was a 2.8 history major, and my recruiter, Captain Berger, who's now a commandant, he goes, "You know what, Bill? You're a lucky SOB." I'm like, "Why is that, sir?" And he goes, "Because if you try to join now after that stupid movie came out, you'd never make it. You'd be a knuckle dragon motor T officer. I'm telling you what, because I'm turning away 3.9 double E engineering GPA guys from Virginia Tech. You lucky son of a beep." And I'm like, "Hey, sir, better lucky than good any day, you know." But that movie changed everybody's life. Everybody wanted to be Top Gun. Everybody wanted to fly the jets. They wanted to fly F-18s or F-14s or.
And I still get guys that say, "Oh, you're the guy that that made that movie that I thought would be really great to be in the Navy, and it was nothing like the Navy, and it's all your fault."
Yeah, I got stuck.
I'm responsible for all those guys joining the Navy.
Oh, yes, sir. Come on. They got to sit out on a carrier for an all expense paid cruise in the Mediterranean or out in the Pacific. You know, maybe get to drop some bombs. I mean, when the Tomcat changed platforms and became the Bombcat, of course, you know, I got a big shout out to my uncle Bruce McCampbell and all the Pukin dogs out there.
Yeah, who was the original McCampbell?
That was our cousin.
I know.
Yeah, Medal of Honor recipient.
Well, leading ace.
Yes, sir.
Leading ace of the war.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he was.
I think 36 kills or something like that.
Well, he had to take a break and go up high and sit there and smoke a cigarette, and pop the canopy for a little bit before he went back in.
Well, I think he got 5 kills in one engagement.
He got more than that. That I'd have to actually pull his book out. I have it up here on my shelf. He how many did he? You know what? My uncle Brankin is Bruce is on the feed. Bruce, how many kills did he get? He's going to come up with that. Anyway, go back real quick. Michael Ironside was the actor that played Jester. And I've got a friend, Scott Gibson, who played in the movie with him. And he's a great guy, he says. So that would be kind of nice to have Jester. Now, did you talk to Jester and tell him about his character? Hey, as the XO, you're going to be the hammer?
You're Mr. Mean.
Oh, he got 9 kills. He got 9 kills, McCampbell did out there during that battle. Marietta's turkey shoot or something.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Gosh, lost my train of thought thinking about Top Gun. So when Top Gun came out and everybody wanted to be a pilot, when I went to OCS, of course, you're getting beat up pretty bad. And they go, "What are you?" And I'm like, "Sir, I have a flight contract. I'm going to go to flight school." And the instructor would go, "Oh yeah, what do you want to fly?" And you never knew if the guy was a jet guy or a helo guy, and you didn't want to insult, you know, the helo guy. So I'd go, "Sir, I want to fly the Osprey," because the Osprey had just come out, you know, and it was supposed to replace the 46, and the prototype was flying around in '86 and '87, and they go, "That's kind of weird. Don't you want to fly 46s?" Bingo! Now I know what the guy flew, but
that was before they had all the accidents.
Oh yeah, they had a lot of accidents. That airplane is a good airplane now. I've got a lot of Marine friends that are flying it.
They just didn't know the aerodynamics that well enough in terms of transitioning, particularly when you were flying formation, because there were a lot of gusts that if you were close together could affect both airplanes.
Oh yeah, you get into that transitional lift and all that stuff. I lost my train of thought on that. The Osprey. No, it worked out. So when I went to flight school, my uncle, having been the F-14 guy, was like, "What are you going to pick?" Well, there was one jet slot, one prop slot, and the rest were helos. There were 15 of us. So the number 1 guy, Andy Dingy, picked jets. Number 2 guy picked helos. He just wanted to fly gunships, Cobras and can swack people. And I was number 3, and I put, props, jets, helos. I ended up getting props. So the rest of the guys went helos. A little bit later, I was dating the niece of the LSO for VT-21, a guy named Shattuck. And Tuck, we were having dinner at his house one night, and he goes, "So how were your grades?" And I told him. He goes, "Why didn't you fly jets?" And I go, "Well, first of all, sir, it was a little out of my control, but come to think of it, another year and a half in the training command where you cross the hold short with your canopy cracked and you get it down. I don't want to do with that. I just want to I am done being a student." And he got hurt. He goes, "Well, don't you want to fly a jet?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir. I've always wanted to fly a jet." He goes, "I'll tell you what, why don't you take leave in October and I'll put you in the back of my A4 and we'll go out and hit the Lex when we're doing carrier quals." And I'm like, so, I fill out the, I think I titled it Prop Appreciation Ride on my leave chit, and the CO approved it. And I drove every day to VT-21, and every day I got bumped from the seat. Somebody would bump me. And then the last day, the CO walks up, opens it, looks at the flight schedule and goes, "Who's this Bell guy?" I'm like, "That's me, sir." He goes, "You've been here all week, haven't you?" "Yes, sir." Go ahead, take the seat. So I got to go out there and we got a landing, which that was a total rush, except I got whiplash from getting so excited. I no sensation of speed until we go over the end of the deck, and I'm looking at the deck apes, and I'm like, "Quack!" Oh, yeah. But I got to ride in the F4 fan.
You got to lock your harness.
Oh, I had the harness lock, so I didn't eat the gun sight, but I was looking over my shoulder instead of straight ahead, and that was very. People ask me, as a pilot, what's the most memorable thing? Landing on an aircraft carrier in the back of an A4 with the ice spitting at you, and flying an F4 Phantom at 53,000 feet doing Mach 1.3 in a D model with civilian contractors out of Mojave Desert Tricor, and sitting there looking at the sky, and it's no longer blue, it's black. That was a memory. So for flying, for me,
and you're hoping your pressurization doesn't quit.
That's what the guy goes. He goes, "Hey, that 100% oxygen," and he's like, "Hey, Taco, if we lose an engine, don't worry about ejecting because we'll be dead." "Hey, what do you mean, Dick?" And he goes, "Oh, we don't have pressure suits. Above 50,000 feet, your blood will boil." How much longer will you be up here? And come and find out, Viper, that guy was a secret astronaut. If you look up Dick Lawyer Aviator, that dude was a secret astronaut that was chosen for the Gemini program to go up in secret Gemini spaceship deals with cameras on them. But then I think Lockheed or one of the companies came out with a big satellite module that could take better pictures and then poop the film out, and the C-130 would pick it up. But I digress. That's another story, another time. I'm going to get my Lance Corporal on that we took for a joyride. Mike Aldridge, he had a blast. But back to Top Gun. We got to talk more Top Gun. What are some other good stories about the characters, the actors that were in it? And did you play around with them at all or hang out?
I didn't. I went to a couple of the parties, but they were partying hardy most of the time, and I don't remember a whole lot of them. Of the parties I went to one that was Tom Cruise's birthday. That was down at North. They had down North Island, but they ran around with each other, and I didn't spend a lot of time down there.
How about filming the sequences down in what training range was that? Right outside of
it was out of Fallon.
in Fallon. So shooting some of those scenes.
Well,
you had cameras on the airplanes, so.
No, most of the stuff at Fallon. Have you ever been to Fallon?
No, actually, I've never been.
Oh. There's a place called Carson Sink. It has mountains on either side of it, and in the middle of it, it has a little. They call it Lone Rock, with rocks sticking out of the sand. They put cameras on turrets, sort of like tanks.
Mm-hmm.
They could spin, so they put like 4 cameras like this. And they'd shoot 4 cameras at once, and the airplanes would fly up the hill towards the camera and then do whatever maneuver they were going to do. And then the cameraman would just shoot it. And then they'd have 4 different focal lengths. And then it was all done in the editing. So, and that was all supposed to be looking up.
Right.
The other shooting that we did was looking down. That was over water. And we got Clay Lacey's Learjet, which had a periscope in it that you could shoot out from underneath the airplane.
Oh, wow.
And we choreograph all the stuff they were going to do, and they'd come up, and then the director would just point the camera down behind the airplane, and the airplanes would do all the maneuvers they were going to do. So what you were supposed to do is shoot looking down over water, and then looking up at Fallon, and then when they edited it, it would come out right. Problem was that we shot 100,000 feet looking down over water off the coast of San Diego, and we had an ejection over water with Goose dying, and that was all in the can. We go up to Fallon, and Tony Scott starts shooting, and they're shooting all the rocks and things. They're shooting. So they'd have the airplanes come through, but they'd also show rocks and stuff in the background.
Oh, so the continuity of being out there to all of a sudden you're spinning out over the ocean.
Yeah. So the dailies started coming in, and every day we'd shoot the raw footage from the night before. So the next night you'd look at the raw footage, see if they got enough. And I went to Tony right away, and I said, Tony, we got a problem. We've got 1,000 feet looking down over water, and then we got another 1,000 feet looking down over land.
Hey, it's Hollywood. Mom and Pop in Oklahoma won't know, man.
Mom and Pop in Oklahoma are going to be really upset. And he looked at me to California. He said, editors can do anything. And we got away with it. But it was sort of tough editing in order to keep the right things in. And you'll notice that one of the biggest mistakes in the movie is they fight over land, and then when they eject, all of a sudden they're over water.
Sure.
And so we had to put some stupid line in there that, oh, he ejected. Oh, they're coming down over water. and
they're spinning out to sea.
Yeah, that's sort of. So that was one of the biggest mistakes and nobody usually says much about it.
Well, how about like at the end too, when they're fighting the MiGs and you see all the mountain range and they're supposed to be over the ocean, Indian Ocean somewhere, and there's mountains. Yeah. So that whole scene with Goose dying, that was based off the actual ejection in Pax River in the F-14 when they did the flat spin testing.
No. That whole scene is taken from the ejection of a friend of mine named Bean Barrett, who lives up in Encinitas. And he was in the gun pattern in an F-14. Do you know, have you ever seen the gun pattern? You know how the gun pattern works? When you're shooting gunnery against a banner? He was in a gun pattern, and it's a squirrel cage, and you're going around and around. You know, you come by the tow plane, you go up, you come back down, and then you track the banner, fire, go by the banner, climb back up, and you just keep going around and around with 3 or 4 airplanes. Well, they got out of position, and Bean Barrett was coming back to what's called the high perch, and the guy in front of him came off too soon coming down, and flew right in front of him. and the wash from one of the engines flamed out one of Bean Barrett's engines.
Mm-hmm.
Engines in the F-14 are 9 feet apart. If you're an afterburner in an F-14 and you're slow and you flame out an engine, the airplane can go into a flat spin. That happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to jump out of the airplane. Nobody was hurt or anything like that.
Right.
But I took that accident because I knew what had happened and just rewrote it. The only difference was I had Goose run into the canopy and get killed.
You killed Goose. There's a great meme going around. It shows everybody in the hangar at Top Gun, and they're all wearing sunglasses, everyone except for Goose. And it goes, you see a pattern?
Yeah.
Everyone has sunglasses. They all live. Goose died. He wasn't wearing sunglasses.
Yeah. If I'd been flying, Goose wouldn't die.
No. Goose would be alive, right? That's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I got to get that one. That's pretty funny. So what else memorable thoughts about the production of that movie? I mean, that is iconic movie. Did you think it was going to be as popular as it turned out to be?
No, not at all. And I obviously went to the premiere in San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody was wearing mess dress, and it was like 900 fighter pilots. And I knew every mistake in the movie because I'd seen it, and I'd helped edit it, so I knew how it was put together,
Right?
and knew all the mistakes in it. And to tell you the truth, I wasn't sure I was going to come out with my kneecaps.
Were the guys giving you a hard time, sir?
Nah, they were actually pretty nice to me about it. Oh, there's some mistakes, but overall we liked it. But
oh yeah, of course. What's not like to like? I mean, it makes them look like gods.
About 6 weeks later, when all their girlfriends had seen the movie, and Wednesday night and Friday night at the Miramar O Club was magic. You couldn't have a bad evening at the Miramar O Club.
Sure, everyone's doing karaoke now. You've lost that love and feeling. Sure.
So then I knew it was going to be a success, but I never knew it was going to be I don't think anybody knew it was going to be as successful as it really was.
Well, it cracks me up because what was that that movie Iron Eagle came out right before the Air Force movie. It was just it was so bad.
But Bruckheimer and Simpson were worried about that movie because they said, "Oh, we're really worried because there's going to be another movie coming out called Iron Eagle. It's an Air Force movie, and we're really worried because we're in competition with that." And
everyone's like, "What?"
There was no competition in the end,
right? Well, you know what's funny is there's a scene, where Cougar turns his wings in, he knocks on the door, and he goes, "Toot, toot, toosh." And of course, all the midshipmen see the Naval Academy ring, and they're like, "Ah!" And they, "Sir, I'm holding on too tight. Never seen my kids. I almost door for me." He hands them the wings, and I'm like, "You pussy!" Excuse me. You mother! I said something probably inappropriate, and my mom ribs me, and she goes, "Now is not the time to be proud to be a Marine, Mitchell." Oh my God. Yeah, Iron Eagle was that goofy movie, the kid.
They did too. I think they did 3 of them.
Oh, Luke Gossett Jr. needed a paycheck, so yeah, I'll sign on for it. I was always surprised. How come they never did a Top Gun 2 right away with the extreme success that movie had?
We did right. We wrote a screenplay, but they didn't want to do it. In fact, I've got the screenplay here someplace for that movie. And I asked Bruckheimer about it, and he said no. He said we thought about it, but then he was doing something else.
Sure. So, and then actually the other guy died probably not long after that.
Well, yeah, that was uh, uh,
Not Bruckheimer. It was yeah. It
no,
was not
no,
Tony. Yeah.
Cash, Jim Cash, Jim Cash, Epps. It's Cash and Epps. Cash. Oh no,
No,
Simpson. Don.
Simpson died.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, died in a car wreck or something.
Drugs.
Um,
Yeah, he died. He died maybe 2 years after that, 2 or 3 years.
right.
but then Cash died also.
Oh, I
Jim,
didn't know that.
one of the writers, he died 20 years ago.
Top Gun movie fans ask, Maverick's name was going to be Evan, but it was changed to Pete. I heard it was because Pete Pettigrew's name. Is that
No,
true?
not true.
Not true.
Not
Okay.
Not,
How?
not true that I know of.
Okay. And how did the screenplay compare to the new movie? And were you involved in the new movie?
I was involved in the new movie. I'm in another bar scene, and I'm just a guy in the background.
Uh huh.
I guess I can tell you this, because we're not supposed to talk about about the movie, because I can't remember if I had to sign a statement or not, but
We'll blame it on PTSD. How
yeah.
about that?
But actually, it's they built a bar at North Island,
Hmm.
and then filmed there for about a week, and the gist of it is that Maverick's at the bar by himself. The bartender's Jennifer Connelly, who's his love interest in the movie.
Right.
And if you remember in the first movie, there's a woman that Goose talks about, Bonnie Benjamin.
No, Penny Benjamin.
Penny Benjamin. Yeah,
The Admiral's daughter, Penny
Yeah.
Benjamin.
She's in the new movie, and she's the bartender, Penny Benjamin. And Maverick's at the bar, and Maverick puts his phone on the bar, which is a bell ringer. It's illegal, so you got to buy the bar.
Right.
So he does that. She rings the bell, and everybody cheers because they've got to buy. He's got to buy drinks for everybody. And my job is to come up behind him. I've got a flight jacket on,
Right.
tap him on the shoulder and say, "Much appreciated, Slick." And that's my scene.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, hey, you're going to get another royalty check for the rest of your life. You're going to get
I don't
$100 a year.
I don't know whether it made it into the final cut or not.
Oh, you haven't seen they haven't done a private screening for you all yet?
Not yet, no.
Oh man.
I've seen a bunch of the trailers.
Uh-huh.
They've been pretty tight about not talking about the movie.
Yeah, one of my students was in it, and he was Tom Cruise was going down in the motorcycle, and Vern peels off, and there's a great shot of the camera in Vern's airplane is shooting backwards. You can see Tom Cruise on the motorcycle. So he said the same thing. Once the movie comes out, then he can talk about it. I'm going to bring him on the show before Top Gun. We'll have a Top Gun special, and maybe bring you back. We'll have you and Vern. Maybe Val will come.
I got to show you my hair so everybody knows I'm in the movie.
Hey, you still look great. You're a swimmer. I mean, you're a water polo swimmer guy. You swam across Catalina Bay, didn't you?
I finally quit water polo.
Did you? But you swam across Catalina Bay, did you not?
Catalina, yes, I've done it twice.
Wow.
Not solo though. There were 6 of us.
Right.
It's a 6-man relay, all over 70 years old.
Right.
So, in fact, one of the guys of our 6 were called the swell guys.
Uh-huh.
Just died yesterday. But
did he?
70. So we did it. We started out doing it Catalina to the mainland.
Hmm.
And a year later did it the mainland to Catalina.
Well, that's a long trek.
About 25 miles, like that. But you do it in a relay, so you do it hour at a time. So you
Oh,
swim
okay.
for an hour, and then you rotate through all the people, and then you swim again.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it better.
Yeah,
Like,
you end up you only swim probably 2.5 miles each.
well, next, as soon as COVID's done, COVID goes away and magically disappears. We are, I help support a thing called RTAG, and that's Rotor to Airline Group. And we have a bunch of guys, we call them Rebel Scum. Eric Sebastian, who is a retired, he was an Army medevac pilot, wrote Dust Off 7.3. He's got it set up to be on the Midway. And he wants me to ask as a personal favor, when we come out there, would you come out and hang out with all of the aviators, sir?
Well, I dose it. I'm a
You're a docent there, but I'm making the formal invite over the air for
yeah,
you to come out and join us at
okay.
on the Midway that night when we have the
I'd be happy to.
RTAG conference out there, convention. That would
How
be
many
awesome.
are there? How many
That
are there?
would let's see, a couple thousand, sir.
Oh,
I don't know how
really?
many are going to show up. Maybe you can maybe you can get in your Rolodex and call Michael Ironsides up and say, "Hey, you want to come out and hang out at the Midway?
We'll get Cruise.
Get Cruise."
Come.
Oh yeah, if you get him, that would be big. That would be big time. I'm sure he's over in Europe filming something new.
You never know.
Never know. All right, I got to ask, what is your favorite movie? What as a most impressionable movie? What was your favorite movie?
Bridge over the River Kwai.
Where do we
Yep.
find such men?
Oh, no, wait. No. That's a different movie.
No, that's Bridge over. Oh, Bridge over River. Oh,
No,
Bridge over River Kwai.
Reed. Yeah, that's my favorite movie of all time.
I'm thinking Bridge over Tokari.
No,
No, I was mistaken. I was thinking Bridge over Tokari. James
yeah,
Michener.
which is a
Right.
Tokri, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a great movie.
Yes,
And
sir.
where do we get such men?
Yeah. Where do we find such men?
But the final ending line after they blow up the bridge, the train crashes into the river, and everybody's dead.
Right.
The flight or the surgeon who's the prisoner, he's just standing there looking, and he looks out and he says, "Madness, simply madness." At the end of the movie.
Right. What's your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite. Oh, I think probably Moby Dick.
Moby Dick.
Yeah.
My name is Ishmael.
They call me Ishmael.
They call me Ishmael. That's it.
The other one is Catch 22. That's another one of my favorites.
Always love that movie. Kelly's Heroes. Kelly's Heroes. Always love that one.
No, I don't know that one.
Oh, Clint Eastwood, where they steal all the gold. They've got the German Panzer guarding the bank, and they go in there and oh yeah, great movie. You need to watch that one.
Another one of my favorite movies is Casablanca.
That's a great movie too.
Just that's got more throwaway lines. Remembered lines.
Round up the usual suspects.
Yeah. Here's looking at you, baby. No. Here's looking at you, babe. So, yeah. That's a great movie. Although Top Gun's got some great lines.
Oh, Top Gun! You could sit there and do Top Gun throwaway lines all the time. Never abuse children. Yeah. Hey, what happened to you? I thought you wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
What about you? Yeah, there's some great ones. Let's see. Top Gun fans movie wrote, what about Top Gun Days by David Barnack, who's also a Top Gun instructor?
Yeah, I know him. But and I think I've read the book.
I haven't read that one.
Um, I think he may have sent it to me.
How about Snort? Snodgrass. Dale.
Oh, I know him. Yeah,
I've got.
he's written a bunch of stuff. He lives down the street from me about.
Oh, does he really? I have him.
I
I
think
have
trying to think the same guy. What's his call sign?
Snort.
Oh, different guy. No, Snort's an
He's,
F-14.
he's an F-14 guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know who he is. I don't think I've read anything of his books.
I've got him lined up later on down in the month, I think, right now.
I think he's still active. He's still flying and stuff.
He was actually doing, they did the little French fighters right up the street in Alliance Airport.
What kind of?
They're doing aggressor squadron, but they're hiring ex-fighter pilots, and they take these little French fighter planes and use them as the aggressors.
Yeah, I did that for a while.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, when I after I retired, I flew G5s for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I was flying L-59s.
Mm-hmm.
Czech airplane, L-50. You know about the L-39, but there's another version with a bigger engine and hard points in the wings called the L-59. So it's kind of a super albatross.
Right.
Yeah,
they had
what?
L-59s and then Kafars, I think.
No, Kafir's that's an Israeli airplane. It's a Mirage 3 with a J-79 in it.
Okay.
I didn't fly those. I flew. There was another airplane. It was a NATO airplane, twin engine. I flew that for a while.
Anybody else out there in the internet world have a question for the Admiral? Because I'm looking at the time. I've had you for an hour and 17 minutes. I can't believe it. It flies by. It feels like 5 minutes sitting here talking to you.
And I haven't even told you my MiG story yet.
Oh, tell me the MiG story. Tell me the full MiG story. Go for it.
No, see what kind of questions they have.
I don't see any right now. We've got 60 people on there.
The MiG engagement I can do pretty quickly.
Okay, go for it, sir.
I was on the Kitty Hawk. We launched as a flight of 2. Well, and then there were some screw ups on the tanker. Well, not necessarily on the tanker, but I ended up leaving the tanker after we got fueled with the wingman from the other section, a guy named Bob Hughes, and the CO sent us to his station because his radar wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and immediately got a vector, and then the vector continued. The initial vector was like 310 heading, feet dry over the Hourglass Rivers, which is where we used to enter most of the time.
How high were you?
At around 15,000. And it was a long intercept, and they confirmed it as bandits, which meant it was bad guys. And then they said it was blue bandits, which meant it was MiG-21s. And then the controller said they're 2 and they're low. So we started down, and we were going fast. We were going probably 550, something like that. Mm-hmm. And we saw them at about 7 miles. Mm-hmm. And they were in a box. Let's see if I can show you. They were in a box 4, sort of like that.
Holy shit! There's not 2. There's 4.
Yeah, and that is true. We were surprised, a little bit surprised that the 2 turned out to be 4. But for me, that was good news, because they usually if they have one section, there's usually another section near them.
Right.
And the first thing I remember saying to myself when we said, "Oh, there's 4 MiG-21s," was, "Yeah, this is good news. I think the dance floor is full. Is full."
How many missiles do we have?
Yeah, well, I only had 2, and my wingman had 4. But we engaged the back 2, and he fired he fired 1 missile from about 45 degrees angle off, and I didn't think it would track, but it actually did track. Took a piece off the tail of the airplane. He started smoking, fell out of formation. So I started to try to follow him down. But then I realized that we had the other guy, which was going a little bit out of my sight to the left.
Right.
So I squared the corner doing about 500 knots with about 7.5 G's on the airplane. Squared the corner and ended up directly behind him at about 3,000 feet.
Were you in a combat spread at that point, or were you
Well,
guys still tight?
we were fairly close together. We had not split.
Mhm.
If you split, you go engaged and free. But I'd stuck us together because they had stuck together and they were in front of us.
Mhm.
So it was actually, we were still in an offensive position. So so then I end up directly behind him at about 2,500 feet. And I hadn't armed yet, which was stupid. But I armed and went to Sidewinder. Got a big, you have to get a tone. You get an oral tone for a Sidewinder.
It sounds like the one in the movie.
Yeah, just like that. And squeeze the trigger. Missile comes off. Doesn't even correct. I mean, just goes straight up the tailpipe. Disintegrates the airplane, and he ejected out the left side. So we continued the left-hand turn. Now we're down low. Now we're down about 3,500 feet, 4,000 feet. I mean, not low, but
Sure.
we had been going down. So now we turned, and these guys are, well, these guys are over here. Oh, wrong hand. These guys. So no, we're going sideways this way. And then we just turned into them, and they ended up falling off behind us, maybe 2-3 miles, and we're just in the afterburner going real
Could
fast.
you get one more shot just to spray and pray?
I only had 1 missile, and he had fired 4. My wingman had fired 4 missiles, and I only had 2 to begin with, and I used 1 on the second guy, and so now we've gone 80 miles inland, had an engagement. We're still 80 miles inland. So we, first of all, you get a strong feeling in you that, wow, this is spectacular. But I'm in a spot where if something goes wrong, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to get back. I want to be back, feet wet, where I can tell the story.
Well, don't they have mighty KC-130? I know they had Marine C-130s out there refueling stuff.
It was an A6. So we just beat feet, and these guys ended up about 4 miles behind us. And then so we got feet wet, tanked, because we rendezvoused with the tanker, came back to the ship, did a fly by the ship, and a victory roll.
Did you do it inverted? You just roll
like that one? No, did a victory roll like that, and then around back into the break and landed, and they shut us down right on the flight deck, and all the crew members came around, just like the movie.
Right. Oh, I bet
it looked just like that. They were all around us, and everybody was screaming and yelling and everything. Yeah, it was quite a bit like the Top Gun movie ended up.
What did they paint the star on there right away? Did you get to fly
Yeah,
that airplane after that, or
yeah, they did it pretty quick. We never did see the first guy eject, but the CEO of the ship immediately said the other guy is confirmed.
Mhm.
And they did that in those days by listening. They could hear, they listening on frequencies.
Sure. So how
So
many other guys in your squadron got a MiG kill?
nobody else that cruise did,
Just
but
you.
me and my wingman got one too.
Sure.
But he later was killed in a midair.
Oh, was he really? Oh.
Bob Hughes, yeah, he had a midair. He went to 121. He did 121 as an instructor,
Mhm.
and he was flying in an A4 as an adversary, and had a midair with an F4.
Ah, yeah. So the Silver Star, though, that was from that engagement. Did you
Yeah,
both get, you both
yeah, we both
put in?
got all four of
Wow.
us. There are two airplanes, four people. We all got Silver Stars.
And you had a brand new Rio in the back of your F4 Phantom,
Yeah,
right?
a guy named Mike McCabe, who ended up as a 3-star.
Oh, did you? McCabe. That sounds familiar.
He ended up as third fleet. He got a numbered fleet. Yeah, and he was a stash waiting to go to the RAG, and the CAG had asked me to fly with him, so I started flying with him, and he turned out to be really talented.
Uh-huh.
And so after the MiG kill, he flew with me for another month or so, and then the CEO took him away from me and gave him to somebody else.
He was like your lucky
He got to
self.
be too good.
He was a self-loading luggage, but that guy was the lucky charm, right? Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
he's godfather of my youngest son. He's a very close friend of mine.
that is so awesome.
Yeah, and then he ended up senior to me because he ended up a 3-star.
Are you on Facebook by chance?
No,
Okay, you're not a Facebook guy because the Top Gun fan club would love to have you on with them. Just maybe to ask questions every once in a while, but maybe you'll have to make up a profile, and I can help you do that and set up a profile. You go to certain sites, and they'd appreciate you. I can tell you that, sir. I can tell you that. When was your last combat flight? Was that the end of that tour?
would have been 70, 72 actually,
Uh-huh.
probably like November of 72.
Hmm.
Long time ago.
And in the last combat scene, it sounds very similar to yours. Tom Cruise is like, we only have one missile and all that. Did you help feed that into the script for that scene?
No,
Do
no.
you remember?
Well, we didn't. I don't remember using anything from our MiG engagement in the movie.
Hmm.
Not intentionally.
Hmm.
I'm not saying it didn't get there
Right.
somewhere, but I didn't intentionally do it.
I'm
One of,
sure.
one of the interesting things is that Goose, none of the people are taken from. Now I'm sure that Randy Cunningham has said on occasion that the movie was written about him,
Right. Right.
but but the movie the guy that plays, not the guy that played Goose, but the guy that we used as an example of the Rio
Hmm.
named Goose was named after a guy that actually taught at Top Gun named Dave Lorcher, who
Dave
was
Lorch.
killed, he was killed in his fifth ejection. he,
Wow.
he jumped out of an F4 in combat, and then he jumped out of an airplane that didn't have anything wrong with it. He was in the back seat, the front canopy came off,
Uh-huh.
and the guy the guy that was in the front seat was a little guy, and he was hunkered down to stay out of the wind.
Right.
and Goose couldn't see him.
Oh, so he thought he was gone.
Ejected.
Was it the dual ejection or was single?
No, single. So the guy that the canopy came off on came back and landed at Miramar. Then, yeah, that was a little embarrassing. then he went to England and he jumped out of a British F4, British Navy F4,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came back and he jumped out. I missed an ejection someplace, but in the end, he ended up I think he ended up in another midair.
So they give him those little 5 caterpillars then?
No,
I thought they give you a little caterpillar when you ejected or something or.
I've never ejected, so I don't know.
Oh wow. Well, I've got an ejection seat in my garage. I use it as my crawler on working on my armor, and it's a F-100 1958 F-100 ejection seat. And I put
really?
wheels on the bottom, so it's my creeper. Oh yeah, it's got a parachute and everything.
By the way, I like your what's it called? Your tank?
Oh, the fox and the ferret. Yes, sir. Although I moved it the other day and I moved it back and now I've got a big puddle of hydraulic fluid, so I got to go in there and figure out what's wrong. There's always something going on.
Does it have like a 30 millimeter? No,
it's a 30 millimeter boffer gun, but it's deactivated. But I'm sure ATF has me on their radar somewhere.
God, I think that would be fun to take to a rally or something like that.
Oh, you know, I took a kid, one of our good friends, Terry Hill. We took her son for his birthday ride with his best friend through Chick-fil-A. So I drove this thing. The biggest thing was I had to worry about getting under the bar. We're so high up, and we went through Chick-fil-A, and people were videotaping this armored scout car. It looks like a tank going through the drive-through, which was kind of fun. But yeah, we do a lot of parades and a lot of local events and things like that. And it's funny. I've got General Whistler, John Whistler, who was my boss in Okinawa back when I was a young captain. He was a senior major, and he retired as a 3-star. He's on going, yeah, I don't know if I can come on your show after Admiral, after Viper. I'm like, yes, you can, sir. He's got some great stories. His dad was in Okinawa and Korea. He has some wonderful stories. But I tell you what, sir, it's been a real honor and pleasure having you with us tonight. I got to tell you, as goofy as that movie, people may make fun of that movie. That movie got me through some tough times. And I say that in all seriousness because in 87, when my sister died at UVA, she fell off a bridge and got run over by a train. It was horrible, the worst that you could imagine. And there was some times I thought about quitting school. And it was my roommate, Steve Miller, who came up and said, had a book that my sister had given me. It says, to my, awesome Marine Air brother, I'm so proud of you. And I'd already graduated, or done 6 weeks of OCS, was fixing to go back for the second. And Steve goes, you can't let your sister down. You got to get back into the fight. Just like Maverick did with Goose when he lost Goose, because we're only 14 months apart. She was my best friend. So that movie with the flying scenes, if I had to get motivated to write a paper or study for a test, I wore that VCS tape out. When that movie came out and I bought it, I think I paid $25 for it. I mean, it was expensive back then. And I would fast forward it on my VCR, had the stereo set up, so all the music's jamming. I mean, I have that movie on the sound system down in my man cave with all the tanks, and I throw it on there just for the hell of it every now and then. But, you to be part of such an iconic film that changed so many lives. I'm actually excited as a 55-year-old guy. I'm excited to see what the next generation brings when the new movie comes out.
Well, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Navy and the Marines won't have to recruit. I mean, they won't have to put any money into it at all. They're going to have people beating down the doors that were a lot smarter than I am, trying to become aviators, and you know, whoop, yeah, wear those gold wings, earn those gold wings. So I look forward to it, though, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Don Williams has invited me out to do a tour of the carrier on a layover. So as I fly for my airline, I'll try to come out to San Diego when things open up. Hopefully it will. We don't have another 100 days of lockdown, but I would love to come out, visit you, sir. I owe you a beer. As a matter of fact, if we can go to Kansas City Barbecue, get some dinner, I'll buy you a couple beers. Is that all right?
That sounds good to me.
All right, sir. I tell you what, you have a great night. I'm going to take you off. And once again, from the internet land, I know everyone, there's a bunch of people in here watching this, and I can't thank you guys enough. Go back and like Tall Tales with Taco. Thanks for joining us tonight. Admiral Viper, sir, it's great meeting you.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, sir. Until I see you in next year, and I'll get in contact and connect you with Eric for the RTAG convention, because that would be phenomenal. But
Okay.
sir, you have a great one, and we'll catch up with you soon. All right.
Hey, take care.
All right, sir. Thanks again for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Out here. Well, folks, I can't thank you enough for joining me with Tall Tales with Taco. Go to the page and like it, because I'm going to take it off my personal page and just put it over on the other Facebook page. I've got some great folks coming up. As we talked about, I've got a U2 pilot. I've got an SR-71 pilot to come in and talk about stuff. The Admiral hooked me up with a Navy guy who's the LSO for the secret U2 carrier landings. I think that's a fascinating conversation in itself. Imagine the U2 spy plane landing on a Navy carrier somewhere out in the ocean. I think it's going to be pretty fantastic. I also, let me look on here. So as we talk about great people to visit with, on November 24th, I have Admiral Ham Talent signed up to join us. He is also an F-14 pilot. He was a friend of my uncle's when they were young JOs flying F-14s back in the RAG. I actually invited him on because I want to talk about leadership, and we're gonna discuss different leadership things, that prominent things that occurred in the Navy when he was there. Oh, this is awesome. December 1st, I have Robert Mason. So if any of you have ever read the book Chicken Hawk, I'm going to have Robert Mason, the author, on. He is actually a guy that kind of inspired me. Years ago, I kind of considered dropping out of school and joining the high school to flight school program, much to the chagrin of my father. He wasn't very happy about that. But Robert Mason will be on December 1st. December 8th, I've got Mike Aldridge. We're going to talk about him stealing an F-4 Phantom and flying into the atmosphere. I'm looking at December 15th with John Huggins. Huggy, he's the U2 pilot. Admiral Shakti on December 22nd. And future shows, we've got a lot of stuff lined up. So stand by, set your thing to subscribe, and I look forward to having you on another program in the very near future. You guys have a great one. Remember, wherever you go, there you are, and enjoy the night. And I am signing off. Hoorah.